Hello and welcome to Breaking News. Political strategist Prashant Kishor set the cat among the pigeons today with a cryptic tweet. Here it is. My quest to be a meaningful participant in democracy and help shape pro-people policy led to a 10-year rollercoaster ride. As I turn the page, time to go to the real masters, the people, to better understand the issues and the path to self-governance. So, what should one read into this? Is Prashant Kishor taking the political plunge? Is he going to start his own party, or is he going to join an opposition outfit? After catapulting the West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee to a stupendous win last year, as he had predicted, I might add, Prashant Kishor said he would be quitting this space. Is he now revealing that Bihar is where he will be ending his sabbatical, his home state? Well, joining us, two Bihari stalwarts. We have Pawan K. Verma, National Vice President of the All India Trinamool Congress, and we have K.C. Tyagi, Secretary General Spokesperson of the JDU. Both of you men have worked with Prashant Kishor closely. Pawan Verma, some say that, he was also really urging and pushing for you to join the TMC. He was all in favor of that. But tell me, what do you make of this very cryptic tweet? Is he trying to do an Aam Aadmi party in Bihar because, he knows there's a need for an alternative, a vacuum that's available? Can he be a change agent in his home state? Does he need to start his own party? Or does he just need to ally with another party to be a disruptor, just like he had strategized in 2015 with that unheard of combo, the JDU and the RJD?
No, Sarah, I think we need to understand the background. You rightly said that a year ago he had announced that he will no longer be doing the role of a strategic consultant or a political strategist, a role which he had said in his tweet he had done for 10 years.
Yeah.
So that card is out. Similarly, he had said that he will take a year to think, to analyze, to contemplate, to examine, to interrogate what best he needs to do. And he had said he would make a public announcement on 2nd of May, which he has done now. Now, what does he say in that announcement? He says, he segregates in two parts, as I understand it. First, the 10 years that he had spent, where he says, and the word peoples comes the only word that comes twice in his tweet is peoples, that he had tried to be a meaningful participant in democracy and help strengthen pro-poor policies. That's pro-people policy. That's what he says. Now he says, having worked for others, having worked as a strategist, and if I might add with considerable success, he has said that he is going to the only real arbiters of democratic politics, which is the people. He is going to the people, but with humility. He says he is going to the people, the real masters, directly in order to better understand the issues and path to what he calls Jan Suraj, or people's good governance. And he believes, in my view, that today one of the things that any democratic polity should aspire towards is a good governance that works in the interests of the people who are at the heart and core of genuine, effective, meaningful and...
So for that good governance, does he have to launch his own party?
Sorry?
So for this good governance, does he have to launch his own party? Does he have to step into it?
Right now, he's going to the people. And in Bihar, he will meet a cross-section of people across the day, to the best of my knowledge. I think that to go beyond what he has said right now would be at this stage to enter into speculation. He will see for himself what are the real issues which are important to people. And he has also said that his real masters today are the people of India, their priorities, their interests, their needs, and their needs especially for good governance. So I think that part is very clear, and I think we should accept it in that light.
All right, Mr. K.C. Tyagi ji, what about you? Mr. Kishor has worked with the JDU. He even went up to be national vice president of the party. Then, of course, there was that infamous falling out over his adversarial stance on the CAA, NRC controversy. Is the JDU willing to forgive and forget?
नहीं, मुझको और वर्मा जी को, पवन वर्मा जी को और प्रशांत किशोर जी को भी 2015 में बहुत करीब से नीतीश कुमार जी के साथ काम करने का मौका मिला। जरा इको हो रहा, जरा उसे बंद कराइए। पवन वर्मा जी वहां पर जब मैनिफेस्टो बन रहा था पार्टी का, उसमें इनकी अग्रणी भूमिका थी इसको और प्रो पीपल बनाने के लिए। मैं पिछले 35-40 सालों से नीतीश कुमार जी के साथ पॉलिटिकली एक ही फ्रेमवर्क में काम करने का मुझको सौभाग्य मिला है, और उसी दरमियान प्रशांत किशोर जी की भी एंट्री होती है और वही बिहार के चुनाव को एक नया नारा भी देते हैं। नीतीश कुमार जी की एफिशिएंसी, उनकी प्रो पीपल जो अप्रोच है, जो उनके द्वारा अतीत में किए गए अच्छे काम है बिहार के अंदर, और वो नारा अभी भी बिहार की सड़कों पर गूंजता है। कहीं कहीं लिखा भी मिलता है, बिहार में बहार हो, नीति से कुमार हो। ये स्लोगन हमारे मित्र प्रशांत किशोर जी का दिया हुआ है, नंबर 1। नंबर 2, नीतीश कुमार की गुड गवर्नेंस के लिए इमरजेंस होती है 2005 में, जब अटल जी, अडवाणी जी और जॉर्ज फर्नांडीज उस समय के मिस रूल के खिलाफ, उस समय के मिस मैनेजमेंट के खिलाफ, उस समय के एंटी पीपल रिजीम के खिलाफ, उस समय की बिहार में जो अनार्की थी उसके खिलाफ एनडीए का गठन करते हैं।
त्यागी जी, मिस्टर किशोर is clearly implying that there is more space for actually providing good governance. So is this a worry for you, the JDU, because his arrival now in Bihar, it coincides with the differences. There's a difference between the your alliance with the BJP. There are differences between the JDU and the BJP. So this is unsettling.
नहीं, मेरा मैम पहला जो पार्ट था वो खत्म नहीं हुआ। तो 2005 से लेकर के और अब तक बिहार में गुड गवर्नेंस रही है, रूल ऑफ लॉ कायम हुआ है, सड़कें बनी हैं, शिक्षा हुई है। कोई घर ऐसा नहीं है जहां बिजली नहीं है, कोई घर ऐसा नहीं है जहां जल का नल प्रोवाइड ना हुआ हो।
सब हम देखेंगे
50,000 से ज्यादा लोग
गोइंग टू गो स्पीक टू द पब्लिक, वो पब्लिक से बात करेगी और वो सुनेगी पब्लिक से। तो आप आंसर, सर यू आर नॉट आंसरिंग द क्वेश्चन, सो लेट मी आस्क पवन वर्मा। मिस्टर वर्मा, डज
नहीं, आई एम आंसरिंग यू।
ओके सर, प्लीज
लेट मी फिनिश फर्स्ट। दिस इज नॉट द वे। आपने पवन जी को एक बार नहीं रोका, मुझको आप 2 बार रोक रही हैं।
ओके सर, गो अहेड प्लीज आंसर।
कौन ऐसा है, even पवन वर्मा जी एंड प्रशांत किशोर जी, दे विल नोट से कि 2005 और 2020-22 के बीच में कोई बिहार में प्रोग्रेस नहीं हुई है। तो जो स्कोप है, ये किसी को भी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी बनाने का अधिकार है, इंक्लूडिंग माय फ्रेंड प्रशांत किशोर। किसी को भी जनता के बीच में जाने का अधिकार है, इंक्लूडिंग माय फ्रेंड प्रशांत किशोर। लेकिन वहां पर ऑलरेडी एक प्रो पीपल वेलफेयर, जनता के लिए एक चुनी हुई सरकार है जिसका नेतृत्व नीतीश कुमार जी कर रहे हैं। लिहाजा एक नई पॉलिटिकल पार्टी जो नया बिहार बनाने का, नूतन बिहार बनाने का सपना देखती हो, उसका फिलहाल स्कोप बिहार के अंदर नहीं है।
ओके, Pavan Verma, quick response. Let me ask you the question I had put forward to Mr. Tyagi. Is there space, and it's easy to ask you this now because you're out of this, at least unless the TMC is going into Bihar, you're not affected. So let me ask you, should the JDU be jittery?
I don't think it's a question of being jittery. As my good friend Tyagi ji has said, in democratic politics, there is space always for new perspectives, new entrants, new discourses. What Prashant, I think, is trying to do is not to belittle the JDU or any other political party. He is saying what is central to India today from his perspective and his understanding, about which he wants to know more, is that there should be at the centrality of politics, good governance that benefits the ordinary citizen. And he's going to try and understand, as he said, the issues and paths that lead to it. This is what his tweet says, yes. And he says, of course, he hints very clearly that it is a national endeavor by that 3 words at the end of his tweet, which says, Shuruat Bihar se. The beginning is from Bihar. So it is not Bihar centric. It is not localized to Bihar.
So the beginning will be from Bihar. It doesn't necessarily have to be contained to Bihar. Perhaps you could read into that also.
He's beginning a journey which could be national, which is beginning with an appropriate learning experience at the feet of those people who matter most, the real masters, the people of India.
All right. Mr. Tyagi, I have 30 seconds. Please close this argument up, and then I want to move across to Aarti Jairath.
जिस नई कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी की या न्यू मासिस को अवेकनिंग की बात कर रहे हैं मेरे मित्र पवन वर्मा जी या प्रशांत किशोर जी, उस कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी को ऑलरेडी नीतीश कुमार जी बिहार में रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं. उनके बारे में सारी दुनिया को पता है, इंक्लूडिंग माय बेस्ट फ्रेंड पवन वर्मा जी. उन्होंने रूल ऑफ लॉ वहां पर कायम किया है, उन्होंने बिहार में डेवलपमेंट किया है. आज बिहार की जीडीपी ऑल इंडिया जीडीपी से आगे है. लिहाजा मैं नहीं समझता कि बिहार में नीतीश कुमार जी के कोई और अच्छे विकल्प की इस समय जरूरत है.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Tyagi, and of course, Mr. Verma. Thank you both. But Aarti Jairath, I want to go across to you. We're hearing from everyone saying, actually, I heard 2 contradictions. I think a contradiction from Mr. Tyagi, where he's saying there's no space in Bihar for Prashant Kishor and, more development. But he's also saying everybody has a right, has complete freedom to conduct political experiments, to form parties. This is the refrain we're hearing even from the BJP, saying that, there's always space. Sushil Modi has just tweeted, there are already hundreds of parties in the country. If in this crowd, if an ambitious person wants to build a new canal, what difference will it make to evergreen rivers? Very cryptic tweets today coming out. But, so let me ask you, does everybody here sound vexed?
Yes, I think one thing Prashant Kishor has done is he's managed to confuse everybody. But, I think a few things here, Sarah. Number one, Prashant Kishor, of course, has been a very successful election strategist. But every time he has worked with winnable candidates. Okay. Whether it was Mamata Banerjee or Stalin or Modi in 2004, yep. Or, Chandrasekhar Rao in Telangana, or even Kejriwal in Delhi. These were all winnable candidates. Mm-hmm. What Prashant Kishor did was to enhance their victory and help them get a really sweeping victory because of certain slogans, certain messaging, certain campaigns that he, thought of and he implemented. I mean, where there was no winnable candidate, 2017 in UP, yeah. When he, tried to help the Congress and Akhilesh, they were not winnable candidates, and see what happened. It flopped, right? Yeah. So I think let's not overrate Prashant Kishor's. He's good. He's very good, and he's certainly an asset to, any winning side. But let's not overrate him as an election strategist. He cannot help a loser become a winner. All right, number one. Number two, if he's planning to enter the political space, and I think certainly he's planning to enter the political space, I think he's given enough hint of that. His attempt to join the Congress, was basically that to enter the political space. And by joining the Congress, he would have got a ready-made organization, which he could have worked on and strengthened and so on. Now that the whole deal with the Congress has fallen through, he has to start from scratch. And as you know, a political party takes years to make, years to build. I mean, you need a movement. Arvind Kejriwal, managed to do it because there was a movement. Yeah, there was a whole movement, that whole, movement, anti-corruption movement. And that's the that is what really helped Arvind Kejriwal create his Aam Aadmi Party. So Prashant Kishor will have to generate that kind of a movement to actually create a political party which can go beyond Bihar into the national space. That's very ambitious, Sarah. It is really ambitious. Well,
All right.
I wish him luck because I think that,
perhaps
the more
he has-
opposition voices we have, the better it is.
Certainly, I agree with you on that, but perhaps he has time on his side since we're talking about that. The elections, 2 to 3 years away, so he can still strategize a bit. But thank you so much, Aarti Jairath, for joining us on that debate. All right, now I want to move across to the other big story of the day. No one can be forced to get vaccinated. The Supreme Court ordered today in a landmark decision on India's COVID vaccine policy. It also directed the central government to publish reports on the adverse effects of vaccinations. It said that restrictions that have been imposed on individuals, on the public, because of vaccine mandates cannot be called proportionate. The court was referring to states that have made it essential or compulsory for people to have a COVID shot in order to access public spaces. So the court saying with infection numbers are low, that there should be no restrictions like this imposed on individuals in public spaces, for public services and for public resources. The court also directed the centre to publish reports on the adverse events of vaccines from people and doctors in a publicly accessible system. This was a petition filed by Jacob Pulayal. He is a former member of the National Technical Advisory Group on Immunization, and this petition argued that states mandating vaccines for accessing benefits, for accessing services, is a violation of a citizen's right. Therefore, it is unconstitutional. Remember, many states, this petition also says that many states have made having a vaccine necessary for government employees, for travel in public transport, and for access to subsidized food grain. So the question right now is, the Supreme Court order, is it upholding the individual's right against forcible vaccination? Does the right of an individual take precedence over community's health? Prashant Bhushan joining us now, an advocate in the Supreme Court who argued this case in court representing the petitioner, Dr. Pulayal. Mr. Bhushan, first to you, I want to check, you haven't been vaccinated till now yet, right? So you were the apt person to fight this case?
Yes, neither me nor Dr. Pulayal have been vaccinated because we both understand and know that healthy people have very little risk of any serious problems due to COVID. And therefore, in any case, the chances of our having a serious problem was very low. Secondly, at least I have had COVID myself. Therefore, my natural immunity from COVID is superior to any vaccine-induced immunity. So therefore, I didn't want to get vaccinated because the adverse effects of the vaccines are still unfolding. The long-term adverse effects are still unknown. So
but
that's
I want to
why
ask you that the question of the debate, does this right of an individual take precedence over a community cell? Because experts say the more people are vaccinated, the virus then dies out because it has no host body.
No, the court has not held that the right of an individual supersedes the right of a community. The court has only held, which is in tune with the earlier judgments of the court in Common Cause and Aruna Shanbag, that I have an absolute right to decide what medication I will take for my own health. However, if I pose a danger to other people in the community, then certainly vaccine mandates can be issued. Here the court has held that we had submitted voluminous scientific evidence in terms of published papers in peer-reviewed journals, as well as the data from government sources showing that vaccine does not really significantly affect your ability to get infected or your ability to spread the infection. So far as vaccinated versus unvaccinated people go, they are roughly equal in their ability to get infected and spread the infection. The only thing that the vaccine probably or possibly does is to prevent you from getting seriously severe illness. And that is an individual decision of an individual as to whether he wants to risk the vaccine to prevent severe illness for himself. What is the chance of his getting severely ill anyway, especially if he has already had the COVID infection. So therefore, these are things for an individual to decide. The government can only impose a mandate if and only if
you're a
the
risk to
ability
the public.
to spread is far greater if you are unvaccinated, which is not the case according to the scientific studies which were presented and which were not successfully rebutted by the government.
Not successfully rebutted by the government. I think that's crucial, because we're not arguing about, whether maybe we'll have doctors on the show and we can put this across to them. But Mr. Bhushan, I want to ask you another very worrying aspect that came up in court today was that the petition says that the clinical trial data of COVID vaccines has to be made public. The petition alleges that vaccines have been administered that have not been adequately tested for safety or efficacy, that, clinical trials haven't, I guess they've been hurried because of the emergency use authorization, and that data is not being disclosed to the public. That's quite worrying and a serious charge.
Yes, it is very worrying, because unfortunately, though the trials were supposed to go on for 3 years, but in less than 1 year and only a few months, they terminated the trials, gave emergency use approval, and unblinded the placebos, with the result that the trials were effectively over. And still, they did not release the raw data of the trials. You see, the trials are in the control of these vaccine companies who have a vested interest. Now, unless they release the raw data showing what happened to those who were vaccinated, what happened to those who were given placebos, etc., for independent scientists to examine and analyze. Until then, we don't know whether what these vaccine companies are saying in terms of test results are correct or not. There have been any number of cases of vaccine companies lying through their teeth. Even Pfizer has been found to be lying about what their data revealed. And that is why the American courts have ordered Pfizer to release all their raw data.
Got it.
By, of course, blanking out the names of the individuals so that privacy remains protected. But otherwise, the raw data needs to be accessible to independent scientists.
Fair enough.
Unfortunately, in this case, the court has not really ordered the release of the raw data in this case. But on the third aspect, which was the adverse effects registry. There, the court has said that you must allow, because the individuals as well as private doctors cannot report adverse effects of the vaccine. Only the vaccinator, the person who administers the vaccine, can report that. So the court said that everybody should be able to report that, especially the individual who has been vaccinated, and that data should be put out on a public website.
All right. Prashant Bhushan, thank you so much for joining us on this crucial day as you fought this petition in court. I want to bring in some doctors because, of course, there are doctors who've been working through this pandemic. They've been on the front line. How do you react to, what do you take away from the Supreme Court directive? First of all, we have Dr. S.K. Sareen, Vice Chancellor of the ILBS, member of the National Task Force, also, appointed by the Supreme Court. And we have Dr. Shashank Joshi, member of the COVID-19 Task Force in Maharashtra. Do you think, Dr. Joshi, to you first, the center in court said that the petition was under national interest, that it is creating vaccine hesitancy. Does that worry you as a doctor who has worked on the front lines over the past 2 years?
Sarah, a couple of things we need to understand, that there is a vaccine hesitancy in general. And Indian government had never made vaccines mandatory. They were always voluntary. Because this was EUA, this was work in progress. And if you see the way we handled Omicron, even the current wave, which is a very small cluster which is happening, hospitalizations and deaths have clearly remarkably come down all over the world. And the primary reason this is happening is fundamentally because of the immunization as well as the natural infection. So it's a hybrid immunity which we have got, and vaccines have clearly played a role in the outcomes of COVID over the last 2 years. So therefore, for severe disease, it clearly makes a difference. And vaccines are always voluntary, so individuals have that right. So that is an ethical issue. From a science perspective, right from smallpox to polio to COVID, we will always see that it will be a scientific endeavor. But these were all early generation vaccines. If you see even United States, Europe, they had the mRNA platform. We had a killed vaccine and an adenovector platform. But by and large, these were immune boosters. So they basically saved us from severe disease and death. And clearly for most of the people, most of the time, that is what public health stands for. They were reasonably effective, at least we can say in the short term. And therefore, I think it is prudent that it is voluntary. But I think
prudent that it is voluntary, but this seems to be contradictory to what doctors have been saying on our shows, for example. Dr. Joshi, it sounds like the Supreme Court is saying lift restrictions, right? The government should lift restrictions. We're seeing cases go up. Quickly, I'm out of time, but I want to ask you, how do you feel about this? Now you have, the petitioner saying that whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated, you're equally at risk, and whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated, you're equally risking others because you still spread. As a doctor, how do you feel? Closing argument to you.
I don't think that is scientifically completely correct.
Sorry, Dr. Sareen, let me just sorry, Mr. Dr. Joshi, can I get Dr. Sareen in?
Yeah, I think there is no doubt about the science part of it, and we have to accept it that vaccines are for prevention. Vaccine is actually a small part of the virus, which makes your body recognize it before the true large virus comes and infects and maybe makes a serious disease. So there is 100% science that we can't reinvent the wheel. And I think the hesitancy or any such doubt in the mind of vaccine efficacy should be totally dispelled. The chapter should close here that vaccines are useful. The second part, for which I think there was a Supreme Court plea, and Dr. Shashank has addressed it partly, vaccines are voluntary. If you don't want to accept scientific data, a considered judgment of science and evidence-based science, it is your choice. Third, whether the public should be allowed to have such people moving around. You go to any US university, no US university will allow you, your wards, your contractors, your faculty to work there if you are not vaccinated and maybe third dose. So if you allow all that, nobody goes to US because it is accepted there. But in India, we have a debate. I don't think we should have a debate if the number of people who are infected goes into double digits. We are 5-6%. Suppose Delhi has, unfortunately, numbers of positive cases going 10%. I think we should allow people to be in the private places. We should have not only your own locking mechanism. And
I think that's what the Supreme Court has also said. If the numbers change, then we will have to go back to the way we were.
We have to go back.
All right.
So vaccine, everyone should have. Boosters, everyone should have.
Thank you so much, doctors, for giving us your time, your perspective. But, I think what's most worrying, and I think you will agree with me, is the court said that neither the union government nor the states produced any material to counter the opinion raised in the petition. That is what's scary, I think. You have a petition making these arguments and nobody countered it. And so you have that order today. Thank you so much for joining us on Breaking News.